Hello everyone, Venus Brown here, streaming live. I'm gonna just go over a couple things before I get started. I did start doing reaction videos to Dairy Girls. We're gonna be talking about the recent decisions that have been made by the Supreme Court. It's not completely recent. It's taken me a while to be willing to talk about this more than just showing my protests. I finally feel like I'm up to actually discussing the issue. I am going to put another link in my comments. This is to a video discussing the importance of the 14th Amendment when it comes to this issue, and it really breaks down a lot of the constitutional law information that goes into this. And frankly, it's very quick, it's very fast, it's still a lot of information though. You could really do an entire class on this, or more than a class on this, to cover all the information she discusses. But in fact, I took a workshop that was over an hour once a week for months, and we covered a lot of this stuff, and we still felt like there was so much missing and there was so much more that could be covered, and she talks about a lot of what we discussed in that constitutional law workshop. And I hope you will all go and take a look at that. You don't need to do it right now. Do it when you have time. It is, like I said, it's a lot of information, but she does a very good job at explaining it. And I hope that this is, okay, it has the volume off. So hopefully I am not causing any feedback or reverb from my Facebook post. It says that the volume's off on it, so hopefully everything is all good in that realm. All right, and it is 5:01 now, so it's time. All right, and the first thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to the decision that the Supreme Court made, when it comes to the views on each side that are affecting this decision, that have contributed to our reproductive rights for years, frankly. For the most part, you have two sets of views, with some people in the middle. On one side, you have those who are pro-birth, pro-life, who feel that that unborn is a living being and should be protected. And many of them see that unborn as worthy of protection from conception on. I don't feel that way. I feel that until there is viability for life, meaning around 20-something weeks, around the point in time where they can actually be kept alive, even if they are not in the womb. If they cannot be kept alive even if they're in the womb, or even if they're not in the womb, then they are not viable. They are not yet viable. They cannot sustain their own life. They can't sustain life even with the help of all the modern technology and medical resources that we have. And so I do not see that as a viable life yet. I do not see them as a living, breathing human being, and so in that respect, I am not on that side of the issue. But people on the pro-birth, pro-life side see these unborn as babies. They will argue day and night that terminating a pregnancy is murder, that it is killing a baby, and I just feel that there is a developmental problem with that argument, in that those unborn are not developmentally able to sustain life, not without that womb. And I know that some people get very agitated with the use of terms like within the womb or unborn or fetus or tissue and all of that. But that's the developmental reality. You're talking about the earliest abortions occur when there is tissue, when there is no living, breathing being. The earliest abortions occur when that is a zygote. It is not even at the level of a fetus yet. And then the next, most abortions occur in the fetal development stage. And most of them occur before that unborn is viable, is able to sustain life outside of the womb. On the other side, on the pro-choice side, you have people, I think for the most part, I can't speak for everybody, I can kind of speak for myself, and I can speak for the arguments that I have heard. You have the argument that this is about the choice of a person to decide when they will give birth, when they will extend their family, when they will move on with a pregnancy, that kind of thing. That's their choice, one way or the other, whether they decide to have that, continue that pregnancy and have that baby, or whether they decide to terminate it. And for me, that's what it is about. It is about that choice from that living, breathing human being that is pregnant to decide one way or another what is right for them in their situation. Once they get to a point where that unborn is considered viable, then their right to choice is a lot more curtailed. Even before the Supreme Court made their decision, their rights to that kind of decision were very severely curtailed, and it was very hard for you to choose to get an abortion legally. But there were still exceptions that existed in order to allow that. There still are exceptions that exist that allow it. But I think the other thing, beyond just that freedom to choose what you are going to do with your own body, to have your own autonomy over your own body and your own life, is this idea that life is about more than just making sure this unborn is put into existence. It is, so for one side, it is about making sure that this unborn life is put into existence, that they have every opportunity to become a living being. Whereas for the other side, it is more about making sure that should you choose to allow this life to come into existence, to exist past the point of viability, to continue on that pregnancy, that life, once it is born, that life is given the best opportunities, or not even the best opportunities, just given basic human opportunities and rights that most of us have come to expect, that most of us believe are our own rights. That they should be able to access health care, that they should be able to access a place to live, a shelter over their head, food in their bellies, that kind of thing. And even though every time I have ever heard an argument from a pro-life person, they've always extended this idea that there should be exceptions, that there are reasons that maybe choosing an abortion is acceptable, even though that seems to be the case. Many of the states that have been pushing forth laws even before the Supreme Court made their most recent decision on this issue have been pushing laws that provide no exception. No exception. No exception for the life and health of the mother or the person who is pregnant. No exception for the life and health of the unborn. No exception for rape or incest. And I think we're seeing a lot of the problems with that now. Now that the Supreme Court has acted and made this decision and said that it is up to the states now to decide on our autonomy. That the states will decide for us what we do once we are pregnant, how we proceed when we are pregnant. With that in mind, they are saying the state has the right to choose how you will proceed, and you have no right to choose outside what the state tells you. And I find that really horrible and appalling, and I find it to be really a lot against the conservative arguments that I have heard when it comes to how government should be ran. Now, conservatives do seem to have this issue where they believe that local and state law is small government and international law is, or federal law is large government. But the way I see it, so many of the laws that directly affect us are based on laws that are made by our localities and our states. Those are the things that are going to most severely influence our lives and what happens to us on a daily basis. And so in that respect, when you give your local communities and your state permission to make choices of autonomy or take away our autonomy and make our choices for us, to me, that is huge government. That is a huge infringement on our rights, on what should be basic rights. We should have a basic right to our own autonomy over our body, over our family planning, and over how all of that works. And yet the Supreme Court has said, no, it's the state that's going to make that decision for you. And that to me is terrifying. Okay, I'm going to look at some of the comments that I have. Hello, Laura. She says that I'm explaining things very well and that my sound is fine. So that's good. Okay, and then the other two comments are from me. They're actually my links. Okay, so let me see. I think I have something else. All right, so, okay. I've got to pull anything that I am putting in the comments section. I am pulling from another file that I have written, so it takes me a little bit to get back and forth. This is concerning what I said about all of the arguments that I've heard from pro-birth or pro-life arguments. They almost always come with this willingness to accept that there should be exceptions. Yet many of the laws that have been pushed in recent years seem to leave out any exclusions. And I want to know why. So what are your thoughts on that? Why is this occurring? When I originally created my content for this particular stream, it was before Supreme Court had made their decision, but it was at a point where we already knew that this was probably the decision they were going to make. And because they had not actually come forth with that decision, I had originally put in stuff about how they have been for years chipping away at the rights that we once took for granted. And that's still going on. It's just now it's like they all have permission. It's like the Supreme Court said you all have permission to chip away at will. But you don't just have permission to chip away, you have a permission to completely strip away large chunks of rights that we expected, that we have taken for granted. It sucks. Even from the very beginning, let's step back before Obama was in office. Okay, before Obamacare, before these regulations were put in that said that the insurance had to cover birth control, just birth control. Okay, before that point, there were every year various states were putting forth laws that just gradually chipped a little bit here and there from what you were allowed to do when it came to birth control, that actually made it illegal in so many instances just to get birth control. And then after Obama came in, and he managed, after a lot of finagling and a lot of messing people over that conservatives got very, very upset about, that policy said that that the insurance companies had to cover birth control. And then, then we started going through this whole thing where they were arguing that there should be religious exemptions and all of this other stuff. And so that went back and forth in the courts as to whether we're going to have these religious exemptions be allowed. And some of them were protected and some of them were not. I'm going to have to pause just for a minute. I just have to get the food taken care of, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back. That was just because we have lasagna that's going in, and it takes, it's from frozen. It's going to take a particularly long amount of time to cook, so I had to put it in the oven before I started. Usually I would just do dinner after I'm done. There were a lot of states, a lot of people that were complaining that we needed exceptions for religious rules and stuff like that. And the Supreme Court did eventually make a decision that allowed some of that but took a lot of it out. But people might think that stopped all of that. It stopped all of the state finagling, whether you were required to have insurance or not. But if you actually look at the regulations on file for each state, there are several of them that have a variety of bans on different types of birth control. Some of them on bans against condoms, some of them on bans against pharmaceuticals, some of them against both, some of them just a variety of things, some of them against male birth control, some of them against female birth control. So they have all these different things, even now, even today, even after the Supreme Court came in and said, we're not gonna allow some of this. There's still a lot of stuff in place for different states where those things are prohibited in some sense because of their state law and because of ways that they have just found loopholes to get around some of that. Okay, and then we come to the situation today. So we've had the chipping away of birth control, and we've had for years, we've been having this push to chip away at abortion rights, to the point that there were already policies in place in a variety of states that made it so that it was almost impossible in several states to legally get an abortion. And now, like I said, it's like the Supreme Court has given them permission to say that this is all okay. The states are allowed to make these decisions. They don't need to go through the courts, or they don't need to go through the Supreme Court to make this decision. They are legally allowed to make their own choice when it comes to this. There's a lot of complexity and details in that I'm not getting completely right, and like I said at the beginning, go to that video that I linked at the beginning, the one for the legal ramifications of this. Go to that, and you can really look at more of the details that go in to that decision and what they really mean. But since that decision has been made, now we have many states that are trying to get the laws that they already put in place to be accepted. Some of those states are actually going through their state courts, and the state courts are saying, this is against our state constitution. So So you do have some hope there that at least maybe their state constitution will protect them. But, you know, they could just change their state constitution. Changing a state constitution is not that easy, but it is something that can be done. So all the slippery slope arguments, once this decision has been made, the slippery slope arguments are valid. They're not going to happen right away, but they are a valid concern that eventually, you know, things could get much, much worse than what they already are. One of the things I wanted to talk about outside of them chipping away at our reproductive rights, outside of them chipping away at abortion rights, is the effects that this is having. Okay, so before, the effects that it was having was that in many of the states where they were trying to ban abortions, or they were trying to ban abortions from 6 weeks, ban abortion from 6 weeks, ban abortion from 15 weeks, some of them trying to ban abortions from conceptions. The issues then was that while it was in court, those people didn't really have much alternative unless the judge said, okay, we're going to say that this is allowed until we make a decision in court. Okay, and that puts, when people don't know, that puts them in a situation where they don't know if they can legally get an abortion in their state. The medical providers that are in their state don't know if they can legally provide abortions. Clinics start shutting down. We have had so many clinics all across the country that get shut down because they don't know, because they don't know the status, and they can't just keep on keeping things perpetually open when they don't legally know if they are legally allowed to provide those services. And it has caused massive amounts of clinics to be shut down. And those clinics don't just provide abortion. Those clinics provide a lot more than just abortion. So it really becomes devastating, and it affects the people in rural, poor geographic areas a lot more than it does those areas that are urban, more high density areas, for the most part. But since this decision has been made, now it's not so much that they're waiting for courts to decide, can we do this when we had Roe versus Wade protecting legal decisions. Now it's like, okay, the Supreme Court already said Roe versus Wade has been overturned. It no longer is going to provide that protection for privacy, for family planning, and all of that. So the states are going to individually go ahead and go forth with many of them already had trigger laws in place that would automatically set laws to go in place as soon as the Supreme Court made their decisions. And some of those have been put into effect. Even in Florida, where I live right now, there were trigger laws already put in place to at least make it so that after 15 weeks you can no longer get an abortion. But that has been upheld, that has been held in court so that they cannot put that into effect. And there's a lot of other states that are going through that. So a lot of other states that are trying to get these trigger laws. Some of them are going into effect. Some of them are causing people to have to go to other states if they choose to get an abortion. And some of them are going to state court and waiting to find out what the state court decides. But it is causing a lot of people, and I'll show you a map in a little bit. It's causing a lot of people to have to go long distances in order to get abortion care if they need it. But not only that, even people that had no intent on getting an abortion, people with high-risk pregnancies, people with ectopic pregnancies, people with pregnancies that would usually put them at severe risk of their life and health, that would usually that one of their main sources of care would be to terminate that pregnancy, because that pregnancy is keeping them unwell. It is keeping in some instances the baby is already miscarrying, or the baby is the unborn is not going to stay alive. And so then the option is, does the person that is pregnant choose to stay pregnant and carry as long as they can, risking their life, even if the unborn is not going to live? Or do they choose to terminate that pregnancy in order to get their health back under control, in order to expel this miscarriage? There's all kinds of stuff that goes on, and when that kind of care is not able to be provided, and somebody's having a miscarriage, or somebody's got an ectopic pregnancy, or somebody's got all sorts of other health issues that can occur in a pregnancy, and the clinic doesn't know if they are legally allowed to provide that care, then those people are stopped from getting care that they need, and sometimes it puts their life in danger. It puts their life in danger to the point that they could definitely die. And that is occurring because right now many of these states that have these laws in place already are unsure whether they can legally perform these procedures. And even in states where those procedures are usually protected, some of those medical providers do not know for sure if they can legally provide that care to somebody who's coming from across borders. So it's causing all kinds of problems. And that's also, of course, adding to a huge bottleneck where the people that are able to provide care or are willing to provide care are getting this huge influx of patients that makes it so that they're having to decide, like, who are we caring for and who are we turning away, because we only have so many beds and we only have so many positions. We only have so many people that we can take care of at one time. And it's really sad that all of this stuff is happening, and it has so much more influence than just abortion. But like I said at the beginning, I believe that when it comes to an abortion, when it comes to being pregnant, it should be the pregnant person's choice. It should be their decision, one way or another, whether they maintain that pregnancy or whether they terminate that pregnancy. I do not see it as murder as long as that unborn has not reached a point of viability. If they've reached a point of viability, then there is the chance that they could survive outside the womb. Granted, most places are not just going to remove the unborn from the womb as soon as they reach that point, if the person doesn't want to stay pregnant anymore, unless they feel that the life and health of the pregnant person or the child is in danger. That's like the only situation where they would. But I'm still willing to draw that line. I am still willing to draw the line at the point that unborn is able to sustain life outside of that pregnant person. Okay, so I have another question that I'm going to post. I think I have all of the comments open. So I've seen everything that Laura has sent to me. And hi, Laura. It's nice to converse with you. What do you think the next big steps should be? Whatever side you're on, whether you are pro-life, pro-birth, or pro-choice, pro-abortion, what do you think the next big steps? Not little chipping away or trying to, get a little footing here and there. What big steps do you think should be taken when it comes to this issue? because it feels like outside of the state, the Supreme Court has put it in a position where it's not gonna, we can't just take it back to the Supreme Court and see what the Supreme Court's gonna say, especially not in the condition that the Supreme Court is in. But there are other options. You know, we could try to vote people in that would be a little more likely to take the kinds of steps that we want. We could, we could try to get Congress to take action right now. Although I think we've seen what happens with that is because Congress is fairly liberal on one side and fairly conservative on the other side. It gets passed on one side and it gets stopped on the other side, and so then nothing happens. But then you could have people vote so that that is swayed, so that maybe both sides are one way or the other. Or maybe you find some way to make things work, to get the people in Congress to be willing to actually do their job and to actually make decisions that might actually contribute to changes in law. I don't know. It seems like that isn't something that most of them are willing to do. Even when you hear about, oh, the conservatives have put forth this law in the past and they were for it, and then liberals go and say, okay, we're going to try to put forth the same law that conservatives have said was okay, and now because the liberals are the ones that are trying to pass it, they're like, nope, we're against it. It's like, and it happens on the other side too. But it just feels right now like there is so much control on the conservative side and so little control on the Democrat side. And there are reasons for that. There have always been reasons, I think, that Democrats have had a hard time getting a good foothold and getting things passed the way that they would want to. Because they're in a position where they need to satisfy their base, they need to satisfy minority positions, and they need to pull in enough of the mainstream in order to get their decisions heard and listened to and agreed to. And that's very difficult. That's very difficult. Republicans have been in that position too. It was just a long time ago. At least to me, it seems like it was a long time ago before I was ever born. So, when we talk about the parties flipping positions, when we talk about that the Democrats used to be conservatives and the conservatives used to be liberals or progressives, that's kind of what we're talking about. Back in the 50s and 60s, there was this shift. And I hear people try to argue against this idea, but the reality is that there were laws that were attempted to be passed by both parties, and there were people that intentionally shifted from one party to another, and there were not enough of the people that were already in that party that stayed firm with that stayed firm in that party, that stayed firm in the particular ideas that they had, and the party platforms started to shift. And all of those historical events occurring at once definitely did cause this shift, so that the Democratic Party that used to be conservative became more liberal, and the Liberal Party that the Republican Party that used to be liberal became more conservative. So that's all I got to say about that. With all of the things that are happening when it comes to healthcare providers having to provide certain care, not being sure of what care to provide, of certain states saying that these things are illegal, and other states saying that they're legal, they're protected. And some states saying even if you go to another state where it is legal, you are not legally allowed to do this. We can legally prosecute you. There are a variety of punishments that can occur, that can punish the person that is seeking care. They can punish anybody that is aiding them or abetting them at all. They can punish the medical clinics, the medical providers. All of these people can be punished. And not just with fees and fines. They can be punished with real jail time. They can be punished with misdemeanors and felonies. They can be punished. Medical providers can have their licenses completely removed and never be allowed to practice medical care legally again. Like, this is serious stuff. It's serious stuff. It makes me nervous. Like, this right that to me should be a given, that we should be allowed to have autonomy over our own body, our own choices, how we proceed with our family, with our ability to have children, with whatever happens when we're pregnant. Having that removed results in dire consequences. And so my last question, what does the future look like? So that's what I'm wondering. What is the future going to look like? And I think we're already seeing signs of what the future is going to look like. And it's nerve-wracking. I think a lot of it has to be we figure out what that next big step is and take that step and find out what happens. Are we able to vote in people that make the decisions that we want them to make, or that the other side wants them to make? Are people that have traditionally been in the moderate middle, who tend to be complacent about these issues, who tend to not put in their opinion, who tend to not state how they feel about it, or don't want to approach it, are those people going to start to see this as something that they actually need to step up and actually take action on? And I'm seeing a little bit of that, but I'm seeing it on both sides. I mean, that's the reality. You have the two sides plus the middle, and they're always going to be those multiple sides. You're always going to have those multiple takes on this stuff. But, you know, what side is going to prevail? Is this going to be a matter of what we vote for? Or is it going to be like a lot of the states are not having anyone vote on it? A lot of the states are putting forth their own policies without any vote. And those policies are being contested and put through their state courts. All of that means that the people that are actually in that state are not voting for it. They are not deciding. They have representatives that are deciding for them, and frankly, sometimes your representatives do not really represent you. So what is it going to look like? What is really going to happen? What decisions are going to be made? What is going to happen during the elections? How is Congress and the Senate going to be swayed? What's going to happen during the next presidential election? Now I'm going to try to pull up this map that I created. So I made this map, and I've only had a little bit of time to work on this. So far as I can tell, the states that I have highlighted in red, these are this is my map of if the states get their way right now. If the states get what they want right now, they go through the courts or they don't go through the courts, whatever, and the laws that they want to pass right now or pass later on, what will the country look like? And the states that I have marked in red, these are the ones that really want most abortion rights curtailed to the point where you have almost no abortion rights. Like to where a lot of these are 6 weeks or earlier abortion bans where there are almost no exceptions. A lot of these. Okay. The ones that are orange, these are ones that are at risk. They're heavily at risk. They would like to make policies that are a lot more strict and conservative, that would curtail your reproductive rights a lot. But for one reason or another, that is being withheld, whether they don't have the votes in Congress, or their governor or mayor or whoever it is isn't willing to pass it, or the courts. Sometimes the courts have actually stepped in and said, no, this is against your Constitution. So these ones that are orange, they kind of would like to curtail those abortion rights more than they are, but they are more at risk. They're not in this position that these red states are. These red states, they want it so that if they are legally, if they go through the state court approves their decisions, they will basically almost completely remove any right to abortion with very little exceptions. And then the ones that are in blue, and I can't guarantee that everything that I found is exactly right. This stuff is changing by the day. Like every day I am hearing new information about what the state courts are deciding. So it could be different. It could change. But the blue ones are, from what I have checked on, what I have learned, they seem to have rights in place that make it so you can legally get an abortion, and most of them also have protections in place that protect that right to abortion. So when all is said and done, if all of these states get their way, they get what they want, then anybody from these red states will have almost no right to an abortion. And we always hear that whatever happens, the people that have wealth and time and privilege, they will be able to get an abortion. But the reality is that even if you have the wealth and the time and the privilege, you are still likely to have to travel a long damn way. Take a lot of time out of your freaking schedule. Take a lot of money. And the more time that goes by in a pregnancy, the more expensive an abortion is, the more complicating an abortion is, and the more likely to have severe side effects. So it just makes it more dangerous. It makes it more expensive. It makes it more difficult. It makes it more hard. And so all these people that are in these red states, if they want to actually get an abortion, are most likely going to have to travel a considerable distance. They're going to have to take time out of their busy schedules. So even if they are privileged and they have money, you're talking about a lot of time and a lot of money lost, which even for a middle-class family can be very, very difficult. But then when you're talking about those poor families, those people that don't have the privilege, that don't have the time, that can't take time off work, all of that, then you are talking about making it much more unlikely that they can get care. You're talking about if they are able to get the care, that is going to severely cut into their livelihood. And I just find that wrong. I find that wrong. That's part of my reasoning that on the one side you have those people that really want to protect the unborn, to make sure that they will come into existence. On the other side, you have people that want those that we choose to come into existence to have a life, to be able to financially handle their life, to be able to have food and a roof over their head, a bed to sleep in, education, like all of that. So that to me is life. To me, if you don't have the money and the means and the privilege to live your life, to make your own choices, to have food in your belly, to have a shelter to stay in a roof over your head, a bed to sleep in, then what kind of life do you really have? That's my standpoint. I was going to try to also find out which ones of these states that are protected, who have said that they can't necessarily provide care for those that are out of state. I was going to try to put that, but I'm not exactly sure where to find that information, so I haven't been able to, and I haven't been looking at it very long, so I haven't been able to put that in. And this thing, it does, like, I wanted to put question marks for those people that we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. And I wanted to put kind of like a target, like little round circular target imagery showing that, like, these are places where you're going to have to go out of state, and these are states where you might not be able to even access, even if it is legal. So I said that I am doing reaction and recap videos of Dairy Girls, the Netflix show, and I am going to be let me take that off. I am going to be making reaction videos first to the Handmaid's Tale trailer that has recently come out for season 5. I'm going to do a reaction video on that. I am not going to do a reaction video for House of the Dragon trailer, but I am going to do it for another video that has, like, some of the cast members in it, because I really liked the information that they have on there. I think it gives me more than what the trailer did. The trailer wasn't really giving me any new information. So I'm going to do a reaction video on that, and once House of the Dragon comes out in September, I plan to do reactions for that. And once Handmaid's Tale Season 5 comes out, I plan to do reaction videos for that. But for right now, I'm going to put my a link to my playlists in YouTube. So I have other videos that I do other than just reaction videos. So if you want, you can go look at my playlists. And once I do start doing those other reactions, you should be able to find them in my playlists once I publish them. I try not to publish them until I have at least trimmed up the videos, because with the reaction videos, when you first load the video without it being trimmed, you are almost always going to get copyright claims. And after you trim them up, that usually makes it so that at least the big copyright claim that says that you can't monetize and you can't take credit for this, which I don't plan on monetizing or taking credit for any of them, but you still get a copyright claim even if you are not monetizing. I cannot monetize right now, so it's kind of beside the point, but it's still a copyright claim. So once you trim it up, a lot of those copyright claims at least get narrowed down to where you're only getting claims from certain countries. And in this situation for Dairy Girls, it's claims in the UK, I think it's called Guernsey, the Isle of Man, Ireland. They're basically all islands off of Ireland in the UK that are owned by the UK. It looks like the copyright laws in UK and Ireland are actually very similar to the laws here in the US, except they are a bit stricter. They're a little bit more concise. So there is that. There is definitely the possibility that they'll say that it's still blocked, and that's fine. That's fine. But it does say that people from Ireland and the UK and all of those places will not even be able to watch the video. So until I get a decision as to what's going to happen, I don't really know how that will go. But for right now, that's how it is. But I'm going to let you guys go. I need to go and tend to dinner, and you know, I'm getting hungry again. I am trying to slowly take these videos or these live streams and download the videos and load them onto YouTube under one of my playlists so that you're able to look back at them later. They will be trimmed up a little bit, but not too much, that, you know, you'll still get the majority of the information on them. Next week, I am planning to talk about the primaries. I'm not going to go in a lot of detail about who is locally on the ballot or what amendments are locally on the ballot. I just want to talk about the primaries and you know, their importance and the things that you should look at in whatever state that you're in when you're looking at your primaries. So that's going to be the main thing I'm going to talk about. I don't want to go too political on this, but I know I have a tendency to be political. I just tend to like some of these issues. I have since I was old enough to really care about this stuff. So some of this will be about political stuff. Some of it will be about mental health stuff and disability and minorities and self-care and things like that, but some of it will be political. And every once in a while I am going to do a stream where it's just to chill out and not have to really worry about a whole bunch of stuff. But I will try to let people know ahead of time what it is that I am actually going to cover. And for now, see you next week. Like I said, we'll be talking about the primaries.